Hi, everybody. I'm Liad Wagman. I'm the Dean of the Stewart School of Business. Thank you for coming today. We have two dignitaries here, two alumni from Illinois Tech. One of them, John Karen, sits on the Board of Advisors for the Stewart School of Business. And then we have Bob Howell, who is an amazing leader for our Alumni Association and our Board of Trustees. And I'll let them do their own introductions. I just wanted to stop by and say hi and welcome you all here and welcome them here. It's worth noting that over the last several years, we've made available some of the business programs here to our more STEM majors in computer science and engineering. I don't know if you're aware, we've been teaching business here for 125 years at the university, and it's it's been an effort to bridge that with other disciplines on campus. Some of our alumni have done that themselves after they graduated or while they were still here. And we think it's important to highlight those opportunities because we see that they lead to success and stronger alumni, stronger outcomes for our alumni, and really success all around for the university, for the students, for our network of alumni, and we want to encourage it. So to that effect, for our master's students and undergraduate students, we've developed a program, a Master of Management, that can be completed with just 7 additional courses while you're still here and under similar scholarship structure to what you already have. So we wanted to highlight that as an opportunity that's available across campus. If you're interested in learning more about it, feel free to shoot any of us an email, including me, and we'd be delighted to let you know more about this. So without further ado, I'll let our guests introduce themselves, and let's give them a warm welcome. All right?
Very much, Liad. I just wanted to introduce myself really quickly. Helena Zenwa, I'm the Assistant Dean for Stewart School of Business. I'll be moderating this panel. And yes, that is our first question. If you could start with your introductions, that would be fantastic. If you could share your name, where you're originally from, the program in which you graduated, as well as an overview of your career and why you chose to get a degree in business.
Very good. I'm Bob Hole, and would it be easier if I stood up for you folks, or we're fine? Okay. I'm originally from Iowa, and I like to think that I escaped from Iowa because there wasn't a whole lot going on there other than farming. I came to Illinois Tech with the intent of getting a technical degree. I spent 2 years studying chemistry and then decided if I was going to graduate, I'd better change majors. So I switched over into business, and I finished my degree in the total of 4 years from Stewart. And at that time, they actually had a degree in accounting, and that was what I ended up with. And I'm happy to say that I never had to practice accounting for a living. In terms of careers, I did something that very few people have ever done. I worked for only one company for my entire career. It was a company that was called R.R. Donnelley, and it was at the time the largest print company in the United States and possibly the world. It used to be headquartered over here where McCormick Place is now. Within Donnelley, however, I had a lot of opportunities. I started out in a customer service role and then went into a manufacturing role and then into a sales role and then finally into a corporate role. I spent the majority of that time, total of 34 years, majority of that time, 25 years, was in sales. And it was within the sales environment that I was best able to apply the technical side of the degree that I had, because my portfolio of customers were primarily from the scientific community, people who manufactured scientific equipment or who sold scientific equipment to the laboratories. So when they would start talking about their products, at least I had a little familiarity and I could smile and nod my head. Why I chose to get a degree in business. First of all, I wanted to graduate. But more important, I learned from my time here on campus and my involvement in student government that I really liked working with people. And that on the technical side, if I got an undergraduate degree in chemistry, I would only ever be a grunt in the lab. If I got a master's, I might be able to get into management. But the people who really did things in chemistry had PhDs, and I knew that wasn't going to happen. So going into the business side, it enabled me to have that interaction with people. I started my business degree here at Illinois Tech, but because I already had my undergraduate degree in business, I decided that I would actually go to another business school for my MBA. But the important thing was I got an MBA, finished that while I was working, and I had the good fortune of the company that I was working for, they paid for it. Not sure that is the case these days.
Thank you, Bob. My name is John Karen. I have a degree from IIT. I graduated in '84 with a degree in electrical engineering. I also had what was called the digital option, which was a precursor to computer engineering, all the same stuff we did. So, and then I later went back and received an MBA from Stewart School in '90. After leaving IIT, for the first time, I went to work for Northrop Corporation, where we worked on airborne radar jammers. I was there for 4.5, almost 5 years. From there, I went to the Chicago Stock Exchange. Back then, it was called the Midwest Stock Exchange. I went there to finish business school. I thought I'd stick around a couple of years and learn the business, and then, move along. I wound up staying there for almost 30 years. I started there as a programmer and exited as their CEO. I was also the CEO of their broker-dealer. Through my time there, going from programming, I went to run all of their trading system software, to all the software development, to all the technology. When they figured out that their entire operation centered around technology, they made me their chief operating officer. I did that for maybe 14 years, and then my last 5 were as CEO. It was a good experience. It was a fun run. When I took over, our stock was trading between $1 and $2 a share. And when I exited, we ultimately got bought and it transacted at $104 a share. So it was kind of a roller coaster ride, but me and the management team, we did our jobs and generated some value for our shareholders. In there for a little while, I was a local alderman, part-time in the evenings, and I'm also involved in not-for-profits. And then since leaving, I've done some consulting work, largely in the blockchain space. Their interest in me stems from the fact that I have a regulatory background as well as a tech background, and they're all looking for some sort of regulatory legitimacy to stay out of trouble. So anyway, that's kind of my career. Why I went down the business school path. I found IIT's engineering degree very valuable. And it was good that going through the engineering program, they expose you to all different aspects of engineering. So whether it's mechanical or civil or different types of electrical, despite my digital specialization. And compared to other people that got out, it was very useful. I found others coming out of other universities were very narrow. So I saw value in that kind of broader exposure. I wanted to get a master's degree in the company I was working for. The area I was in was run by guys with PhDs in math. And kind of looking back, they were among some of the worst managers I never had the pleasure of working for. But they wanted all their employees to get masters in math, computer science, or engineering. And you know, I wasn't using more than 20% of what I went to school for in engineering. The last thing I wanted to do was to be more narrow. I wanted a kind of a bigger toolbox, a broader, more diverse exposure. So the MBA afforded me that. As you know, you get exposure to economics and finance and accounting, and business law and marketing and sales and management and strategy, and you get to kind of look at real world examples. So I managed to talk them into sending me back to IIT, because at the time they had a program that focused on research and engineering management. And so I went back to school there, and then maybe halfway through the program, they fell on hard times and they said, we're not going to pay for MBAs anymore. Went over to the stock exchange. I finished my degree there and ran out the rest of my career. And like I said, I only planned on finishing business school and sticking around a little while. But at the exchange, it was a time when the financial markets were in transformation. They were moving from kind of open outcry to what is kind of fully automated screen trading. But it didn't happen overnight. What did take place is that the traders on the floor had a thirst for technology. They wanted us to continue to provide more and more automation, but only enough automation to give them a competitive edge over their peers. Not enough to be completely disintermediated. So it was this kind of technological leapfrog where somebody else would get something and then we would provide it. Anyway, that's how I wound up in business school and at the exchange. And the MBA was tremendously beneficial in enabling me to advance through that organization.
Thank you so much, John and Bob, for sharing your backgrounds and your experience, which has been fantastic. Thinking about that and thinking back to the time that you were here, your educational journey, what advice would you give to students today?
First of all, I'm going to go ahead and stand up. I'm not used to being caged down in the chair. As chair of the Alumni Association here at Illinois Tech, I get a lot of feedback from our alumni. And one of the things that I have learned is that within 5 to 8 years after our alumni get out into the workforce, they make one of 3 decisions. They either want to be in that engineering field for the rest of their career and they're really infatuated with it and maybe get an advanced degree, or they decide that they want to go on into management and start managing the technology, or they decide, I don't like this at all, and they change careers completely. And in order to do those things, they find that they need soft skills, business skills, to help them make that transition. So the majority of our alumni end up going on into some management capacity minimally. And so the education that you get through business degrees, through business courses, is invaluable in what you're going to want to do. Even if it's nothing more than to manage your own personal finances. But having a knowledge and the abilities to read financial reports, to read production reports and understand what they mean is critical. So that is the value of adding business courses to a technical degree.
So I would follow that with you don't know where you're gonna land, right? Your career is a bit of a journey, and we talked to a lot of grads, and rarely do they do what they went to school for. So it's important to be able to land on your feet when that opportunity presents itself, and therein lies the benefit of kind of a diverse skill set. The IIT engineering degree provided me with provided a lot of exposure later on the MBA with business skills. So I would keep that in mind as you're selecting classes, is how do I need enough to get a low-paying job, but I have no idea exactly what I'm gonna be doing, 2, 3, 5 years down the road. Yeah, so that, and then the other one is, get out of your comfort zone. So for the engineers, you're gonna be more introverted and you're not gonna wanna do public service type things. And I would encourage you to get on boards and volunteer and just get exposure to different opportunities. And it might be a little uncomfortable, but it's well worth it.
John, when you refer to boards, what kind of
So
this?
two things I did that put me out of my comfort zone. One was a neighbor talked me into running for alderman. And it was the last thing I wanted to do. I stuttered. Public speaking, I was afraid to do that and very uncomfortable. And he talked me into doing it, and my wife was fully supportive of it. And, he said, John, people like you don't run for alderman. I live in the town of Park Ridge. You get a lot of, and not to take anything away from them, but insurance sales, variety of different service people looking to make connections and get their name out there for business generation. And I had no kind of way of directly benefiting from any of this. I just did it out of service. And when you go through engineering school and business school, you think differently than most people. You may not know it yet, but you'll figure it out when you get out in the real world that your mind is wired differently. And they found that beneficial on a lot of these boards because you deal with, whether it's a bond issuance or buying a $250,000 piece of equipment, the way you'll approach that problem is different than the way an attorney might approach that. So that was one that pushed me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, and there are a lot of opportunities out there for involvement in boards. Yeah. Whether it is a paid position or whether it's for a not-for-profit. The other aspect of being on these boards is your exposure, as John says, to people that might think differently than you, but at the same time, it expands your network of people who have other connections in other industries. I, from time to time, have been on 3 or 4 other boards, all not-for-profit. Nobody wants to pay me to do anything. So, as a result, I have made some very good connections around the United States through working with those different groups.
Okay, I'm going to pause there to see if there are any questions from the audience. Okay, as you think about those questions, I have a question for you. We marketed this program to certain schools, so I just wanted to get an idea of how many students are here from Armor. If you could just raise your hand. Okay, how many students from College of Computing? Okay, great. And how many students from the business school? Okay, is there any school that I missed? No? All right, fantastic. Okay, so.
Architecture.
Architecture, any students from architecture? All right, okay, so we got a good mix. Seeing that, I think there's a number of individuals that are either in the internship planning stage or in the full-time role planning stage. Can you talk a little bit about what that experience was like for getting that first job and advice that you would give to individuals who do it? You have a vast career, so.
So, first of all, you have to realize that I was here in school over 50 years ago. I graduated in 1970. So things were a lot different than they are today. We didn't have internships. We had summer jobs. So it was somewhere that you could go and work that would help you pay for school when fall came around. So it wasn't nearly as sophisticated as today's environment for internships. If there's one piece of advice I would give to you, it would be that start early and look everywhere. Don't rule anything out. But companies, the good companies, get started on hiring their interns in the fall for the next summer. If you wait until spring to go looking for an internship, all of the good positions are already gone. I see too many students who end up without having a summer job, without having an internship. Don't let yourself get into that position. You may say, I don't have time to do that, to go out and interview and do those kinds of things. If you came to Illinois Tech thinking that your purpose here was to get a degree, you're mistaken. You're really here to get a career. Okay? The degree is only a step to that career. It's a credential. But you're really here to figure out how you're going to pay the rent in the future. So begin that looking for an internship in the fall. I've heard cases already of a number of students who have gotten their internships lined up for next summer already.
When I graduated engineering school, it was 1984, and economically it was kind of a strange time because the economy was in a little bit of a slump. However, the government was spending a ton of money with defense contractors. And there were plenty of opportunities to interview, but it wasn't always clear exactly what they were looking for. So I would just sign up for any interview I could. And I got a lot of rejection letters, but I had a couple of second and third interviews and ultimately offers. I used to take my rejection letters and staple them. So I have some record of what I attempted. But the defense business was booming, and that's kind of where I landed. And I had a skill set that I understood hardware, specifically digital hardware, as well as software. And they needed people. They designed their own hardware and they wrote their own software. Or they put it together and it evidently would not work. So they needed someone like me that understood both, could talk to both, to go in and kind of get all that to work out. But over time, it was more of a demand for software, so I went that route. But before graduating, I had a co-op opportunity with a motors company, and I did that for a summer and realized that that's not what I wanted to do. So that was beneficial in that regard. And I've had other summer jobs in the manufacturing space, and I thought, I don't want to do that either. So for me, the internship piece was not to get the job when I graduated, to kind of help me figure out where I fit in this world. So
Fantastic. Well, from a show of hands, it looks like the majority of the people in the room are either engineers from the engineering school or from colleges and people. So given that, bringing it even closer to home, when in your respective companies and organizations, what type of skill set stood out for the interns and entry-level talent that you brought on during your time?
we would look for people that could add value. We still trained them and supported them, but when we had interns, they were actually doing real work. It wasn't mission critical work, but they were actually writing software to benefit the corporation, whether it was a regulatory department or helping us with a trading system. So hard, tangible skills is beneficial.
Companies today are not looking to spend a lot of money training you. They want people who come in and they're ready to go to work, be productive within weeks, or a couple of months, not in a year. So the more that you can do to demonstrate your technical ability, but also then have that knowledge of soft skills, the more productive you will be for those companies earlier.
Yeah, make sure you're showing up with some computer science skills, regardless of what your degree is. You know, and make sure you know SQL or something like Python or R, junk, and make sure you know the Office, Microsoft Office suite, you know, Excel and PowerPoint, so that, you know, when you're given an assignment, deliver some tangible work product that will be a benefit to the company. Show up with some hard skills. And you can acquire all that here, or you can acquire that online. But it's not that hard for students of your caliber to pick that up.
So,
if you're here, you can do it.
that's right. That's right. This is a great opportunity to have, you know, one-on-one engagement with individuals that are well connected and have had great experiences. So let's hear what questions you might have for our speakers.
It's just giant group.
Yes.
So, that's like a discussion about being a specialist and a generalist. So
Absolutely.
what would you recommend? Like, do you prefer people in companies who are specialists in something or generalists who can do a wide range of things?
So that specialist skill gets you your first job, right? But it's that general background that enables you to kind of land on your feet, move around the organization, and kind of put in situations where you don't need to have like a 400 level skill set when you think about it in classes. 200 levels just fine to get you started. No one expects you to be a lawyer when you sit down with the attorneys. No one expects you to be, you know, an accountant when you sit down with the accountants. But you need to be able to read a balance sheet and an income statement, just to understand what they're talking about. They'll take it from there. So absolutely, you want to be both. Now, as an intern, you're more of just a smaller world. You want to have some diverse skills, but you want to be tooled up to provide them with some value. You get the internship, kind of, they'll share with you what it is that they think you'll be doing when you get there. It's hard to enhance those technological skill sets before you arrive. You want to impress them, you know, with the hopes of them, you know, making an offer down the road.
Great question. Other questions? Yes.
Both of you have spent a long time in your companies, right? Like all in different roles. Do you have any advice, like in retrospect, would you have like maybe like switch to a different company, or what do you have like what advice you have? Do you think we should like switch to a different company for like career growth and stuff like that, or what do you identify you should?
So the question is, stay for
Yeah.
a while with the organization that you're at,
Yeah.
or switch.
Let me make an observation, both today and the way it has been in the past. First of all, if you follow the business news at all, the retiring CEOs have all been with their companies 25 to 30 years. Before that, however, they've switched jobs. And what I have observed in recent graduates over the last 10, 15 years is that you get your first job, you establish yourself, and companies get comfortable in keeping you at that level and paying you a little increment each year. And the only way that you're able to make a real jump is by switching companies. It's unfortunate that corporations have not looked to enhance and grow their current staff we kind of trained them to go ahead. If you want to get a big jump in salary and responsibility, you have to change companies. And so it's fairly common to see that today. And sometimes I've heard that the average new graduate spends no more than 3 years with their first company. And then they move on. It could be because they decided that they wanted to do something different than what they were doing. But as much as anything, they're looking for more responsibility. And the only way that they can get that is by changing companies.
I agree. Try to assess your situation. If you appear to be moving up, stick it out. But if you're stagnating and it doesn't look like there's any opportunity, move along. And another thing to keep in mind is, what is your company doing, the one that you're working for? Is it in growth mode or is it in contraction? Because it's a lot more fun working for a growing company than it is for one that's in contraction. And there's also a lot more opportunities for you to grow with it. So pay attention to kind of the industry you're in and how well your company is doing within that industry. Factor all that into your decision as to whether or not, is now the time to jump. And then keep in touch with your peers that leave and see how they're doing elsewhere. You'll get a sense of what's going on in the market. I know someone who just changed jobs, a young guy, got 51% of this. It's going to change.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Great question. Yes.
As we are focusing on the hard skills, can you recommend any soft skill that we should focus on to be job ready?
And just for everyone to hear, as we're focusing on hard skills, what soft skills are recommended or professional skills are recommended when you're going through the job search?
Soft skills. I mean, I would practice it, right? There's no substitute for going through that process.
You said practicing interviewing?
Right. And, it's just, and for me, like I said, I wanted every interview I could go on, even though I really didn't like it. It was inconvenient and it was a little bit uncomfortable, but I went through the process over and over and over again. And, eventually I got better and the right position came available.
I think in terms of soft skills that are most important, you're probably getting in your iPro courses if you're an undergraduate work, because it teaches you how to work in teams. So it's not necessarily just the formal academic soft skills that you would be getting. It's those that you get outside of the classroom, those that you get from working with the other students who are of different backgrounds than you, who have come from different cultures, who have different technical skills. Because when you go out into the workforce, those are the kinds of people that you'll be working with. And there's virtually no job that I'm aware of today that does not use the team approach in solving problems.
To add to that, once you're in a job, I try to be nice to everybody, regardless of what their ranking was. So when I was the CEO, I knew the names of the people that emptied the waste paper baskets, that repaired things around the office, regardless of their level. I just tried to know them and interact with them. And I think that it tells everybody you work with that you're kind of like a team. So, very helpful.
Be engaging.
I once got a position. They couldn't figure out who was going to run one of the departments. And so they hired an outside consultant, the management staff. And he went down to a small group of competent people. I was the only one that everyone said, yeah, I work for him. The others said, if we put that other guy in charge, I quit. Right? So I kind of rose just by default because the others were so offensive that they would disrupt the department. So there's real benefit in establishing those human interpersonal relationships.
And that's where getting involved in campus organizations comes in. Learning to work with people that perhaps you disagree with, that you've got a different approach than they do, and learning how to work alongside of them helps you in your job. Because you will run into people in business that you just can't stand. They don't know how to deal with other people, or they're pushing their own agenda constantly. But learning how to work with those folks is what's critical.
I think that's excellent advice and one that's very applicable, right? So I spent many years in financial services. So is Tiffany White back there as well in technology, operations, private bank, investment banking. And my last stint was managing an entry-level development program. And the reason why I'm saying all of this is because one thing that I noticed that came up with individuals that were coming in, they did very well interviewing, but then how were you able to move into your next role based on your performance, right? So I'd like to hear from our speakers if you have any stories that you could share with the audience about your top performers and what were some of those skill sets that stood out.
Top performers are the ones that get things done, right? Whether and the jobs get big enough where they can't get it done by themselves. So they need others to help them. Sometimes they're their employees, sometimes they're their peers. Sometimes you need help from another department. You can't get something put into production. So it's those interpersonal skills are what enables people to deliver in these larger environments. And that is one key area is can you deliver. And then promotions. Every time I was promoted, it was never because I did a good job. It was typically because somebody needed me to solve a problem. Usually, if somebody above your immediate supervisor has an issue on their hands, whether it's personnel groups not interacting well or a technological problem, and they would pick me up and put me over there to kind of work on that solution. And it wasn't, I did a good job, which meant they had confidence in me, but I got that move for that promotion because somebody needed something. And that happened time and time again, just solving problems with the organization.
Well, they knew you were a subject matter expert on problem solving. That was the good job.
Not much that I can add to that. Again, it comes back to people's skills and being able to work with others, figuring out what others need. They may say that they need X when in fact they really need Y in order for them to be a success. So you have to sometimes be able to read between the lines and figure that out. And sometimes it's sitting down with the person that you're working with and saying, but is that really what you need? And then help them get to that point.
Software engineers run into that all the time.
Yeah.
When people ask you to write something for them, and you give it to them, and they're like, well, what's this? Because what they articulated isn't what they envisioned. And you as a software developer need to kind of get out of them, almost anticipate what they're going to need.
So we have about 5 to 7 minutes left. Any other questions before? I have a couple questions here that we definitely want to go through.
How many of you are graduating this next May? Only a couple. So how many of you are in graduate school? I can't emphasize enough the need for you to work with career services. In your tuition, you're paying for it. So be sure to take advantage of it. Okay? We've got a good crew there. Nick in the back is from career services. It's extremely valuable. Just even finding out what other resources you have available to you. They can help guide you to that. Getting your resumes ready. There's no dishonor in asking for help with these things.
I mean, I think that's excellent advice. I'm biased, but it is excellent advice because you're absolutely right. You're paying for it. Why leave that money on the table? Take advantage of the resources that you have with Nick and his team in career services, or if you're in the business school, with Tiffany, myself, Shazad, Lizette. You have individuals to help you, whether you're going through the mock interview process, whether you're participating in the university-wide career fairs, or sessions like these that we have on a regular basis. This is National Career Development Month. We are lucky enough to have our trustee and our board member up here telling us a little bit about the experience that they've had and tools that you can take with you as you go through that career process. So, what questions? Yes?
I want to ask how to build a common.
Say that again?
How to build a connection in the
How do you build a connection in the workplace? Great question.
I think first and foremost is you're going to have people sitting around you where you're working, or people that you're on Zoom calls with. Is just to reach out to them. Doesn't have to be just about business. Learn about them. Find out about their families. Find out what they want to do. Just be friendly. And you will help establish those networks.
Some of the guys I work with would bowl together. Some would go on fishing trips. We would go on ski and snowboard trips. Eat lunch together. Get together for lunch. Go out to lunch. We had a situation where we never wanted too many people out of the office at any one time in case it was a systems problem. We run in real time trading systems. So we tended to eat in a lot. So every day, I'd either go out and grab my lunch or bring my lunch, and I'd go into the biggest conference room in the company and sit down with my lunch and eat it. And anybody can come join me, regardless of where you are in the organization. And people get to know one another. They get to know me. They get, it creates kind of an organizational family, and that enables your group to get on. So you don't need your CEO to do that. You can just get together with your friends, and be welcoming and inviting of others. Initially, we'll start with who sits around you, but try not to limit yourself to that. Try to think about the people in the next department or the next department, because you may need them at some point, and it's good to have that relationship.
And if the company that you're working for has social events, go to them.
Go.
Definitely go to them, because that will give you an informal environment to meet other folks in groups that you don't normally interact with.
Drink very little. Neither you're drinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
But absolutely attend the social events.
You know, the Christmas parties, the summer picnics, or whatever the company may be sponsoring. It is a great opportunity to get out and meet other people. And that's what it's all about, meeting other people, networking. We put that out there like it is something you only do with professionals. No, you do it with anybody that you come in contact with. because you never know what opportunities that will present.
Great. Yes.
So I just wanted to know, we've been hearing a lot about that market is tight right now, and there are not a lot of jobs. So I've been preparing to come to US in 2021, and since then, we were hearing about the situation right now in US. So you being the market leader, I want to understand, I mean, by when can we expect the market to ease out for, the job that we are looking out for? And also as international students, what should our approach be to, what sort of things should we look out in a company before applying for the job?
Questions?
No, those are all good questions. The market cycle, business cycle, the Fed has been trying to get inflation under control, pulling money out of the economy and raising interest rates to slow it down. And they're experiencing some of that. It appears as if they're nearing the end of that cycle. Might raise one more time. They're not likely to. Stimulate the economy and job openings and opportunities. But there's a whole other dimension to this that's political, regarding H-1Bs, H-1B visas, and immigration, and so forth. And that is far less predictable. Fortunately, if you're in a STEM program, you get a little more time to figure it out. Hopefully, before your window expires, the economy will be such that you can find.
Follow-up question. So, for example, if a student is coming over here to study and is expecting a job after he graduates, so does government takes any extra measures for international students? I mean, some sort of policies that the government might provide, or some kind of additional support that government provides which helps out students, because international students are the ones who are having actually the highest debt once they graduate. So are there any measures taken by US government to do some that, or?
I don't.
So I know that the Office of Global Services has their finger on the pulse for that. There is quite a bit of research as well as the updates that are coming out on a regular basis. And as they come out, they'll continue to share that with our student population. Whether it's through one of these webinars or just posting, I would just stay close to their website because they update it quite often. But I mean, that's a very valid question. And we're lucky enough at Illinois Tech to have such a strong office that does have their finger on the pulse.
It's kind of outside of our area of expertise. We need somebody that's monitoring what's going on in DC, right?
Right.
It was up to me, when you graduate, we staple the green card to the back of your phone. But it's not up to you.
So as far as I know, there's that saying that companies, they prefer to hire domestic students because they don't have to worry about sponsoring a visa. But so that kind of got us in this situation as international students that so we have this natural disadvantage in order to get hired. So what would you suggest us to cope with this disadvantage?
We were always faced with what to do, and we did sponsor people, but not as often as we probably should have, only because they made it so difficult for us to do that. It was expensive, it was time consuming, and you have to prove that the skill set that you offer is one that nobody else in the country has. So you write this, we call it the kind of the purple unicorn type job description that only you can fill. But it's an uphill battle. And I don't know how to adequately answer your question.
So that's another area that they're working on, but essentially, John said it right. Just from our experience working in financial services for one industry as an example, right? The focus is really, if you're coming in with a specialized skill set, more advanced experience. So for those I've seen, for those that are coming with experience before they even start their graduate program, can utilize that experience with those applications to have a better consideration for those roles as opposed to entry level. Entry level, you don't have any experience, you run straight from your primary degree to your secondary degree to your graduate degree without any work experience. It's harder to make a case. Yes.
Hi everyone, Tiffany White. I spent 18 years at JP Morgan Chase, primarily in recruiting. And in those companies too, sometimes one division may be able to hire international students and others may not. So during my career, I supported the asset wealth management business and commercial banking. We were not able to hire international students, but our investment bank was able to hire international students as well. So you have to, do your research and do some network because it could be one specific area because their numbers may be larger and may be more global in scope, may be able to. So you really have to, do your due diligence and networking when the firms come on campus too, so they can understand who does and who does not.
And therein also lies the value in the company that you do an internship for. Because if they see you as a valued future employee, then you run a better chance of being able to be hired back on when you graduate.
And it makes it easier for them to justify hiring you because you now have unique skills and that they're specific to that organization.
Hey,
And that could be just a stepping stone, okay? You're really just looking for an entry point initially.
and you get the opportunity to have a final question.
So as an MBA student, apart from studying and getting good grades and, attending career fairs and trying to get internships and jobs, what are some other things that I definitely should be doing?
Socializing, okay? Having a good time. It's part of the work-life, social life balance. And that socializing also serves a purpose, and that is networking. Again, get involved in other student organizations or on campus. Get involved with the student government. Because again, it will enhance your people skills and it will expand your network. But don't socialize too much.
Okay, thank you. Please join me in giving a round of applause to our speakers.